So here we're going to talk about interfaces in Java, and perhaps not surprisingly, their whole goal is to provide a convenient interface in Java. So remember, a class can only extend one other class, but with interfaces, a class can implement multiple interfaces. And this is going to make it a lot easier to have sort of a common way of interacting with classes in different parts of an inheritance hierarchy. And here we'll hit the learning goals you see on this slide. You can take a second and read them. Okay, so my first example of an interface is that of a bottle opener. So I have some Orangina, and I have all these different types of bottle openers. And it really doesn't matter to me which one I use because they all competently open a bottle. So you could imagine modeling that. So I've got a bottle, and then I've got different types of bottle openers. So on line 13, I've got bottle opener B1 is a new keychain opener, and bottle opener B2 is a new can opener, and bottle opener B3 is a new Swiss Army knife. And for all of those, I can say .openBottle and pass it a drink. So here I can have many classes that implement the bottle opener functionality. So let's zoom in a little bit. So bottle opener B3 gets or is equal to a new Swiss Army knife. Again, that's the static type is bottle opener and the dynamic type is Swiss Army knife. That's the actual class. In that interface, bottle opener, I just have one method. That method is void, named openBottle. It takes a bottle, and check it out. It's got a semicolon at the end. It doesn't actually provide the body of the method. So we just put a semicolon at the end of the methods that we're listing. Interfaces don't implement any methods, so they don't provide any code reuse like we had in inheritance. Literally no code reuse. It's just providing a common interface. Okay, so here I would have the keychain opener implements bottle opener, and then each one of those would need to implement the openBottle method. Swiss Army knife implements bottle opener. So by saying implements bottle opener, your code will only compile if you actually provide the method for any of those methods that are listed in the interface. And again, here can opener implements bottle opener, and so you would have to provide that method in there too. And bottle opener just had one method, but any methods that are listed in that interface, you have to provide in any class that implements that interface. Okay, so I want to draw your attention to something that actually makes this way more helpful. So remember, we can only extend one class, but sometimes there's some common functionality that cuts across the inheritance hierarchy. For example, a horse and a car can both be transportation. And so I might want an interface called transportation such that I could say transportation T1 is a new horse and transportation T2 is a new car, and then I can treat them in uniform ways and tell them both to go forward. I think about this like playing a video game. So I worked at Leapfrog making educational games, and we worked on a game where a character could ride on different little like vehicles. And you could imagine that that vehicle could be an animal like a horse, or that vehicle could be a spaceship or whatever. So it's like providing that common interface so that the character can like hop on and then direct it around the world. So interfaces are just saying, hey, I've got a great idea. Everyone's going to want to be able to make transportation objects that can turn left, right, and go forward. And as a hint, we won't actually be able to make transportation objects, but we'll be able to have transportation references. And the thing about interfaces is they're super, super lazy, so they don't specify any of the details of how this happens. Okay, so here's my interface for transportation. I've given it 3 methods: go forward, turn left, turn right. And you can see the package explorer on the bottom. And I have my car, horse, and tester class files. And then my transportation interface, you can see the I indicating that it's an interface. That's something that Eclipse does. And again, seriously, this is all of the code. I'm not hiding some of the code for you. An interface tends to just be a list of methods. And each of those methods ends in a semicolon, and there's never a body to any of the methods. Okay, so here's an example where horse implements the transportation interface. You can imagine that horse extends animal, and then a horse class implements transportation, which just means it has to provide those methods: go forward, turn left, and turn right. Similarly, a car can implement transportation, and car is in the inheritance hierarchy under machine, so it extends machine. And remember, implementing transportation means that I have to provide all of those methods. And again, I can only extend one class, but I actually can implement lots of different classes. Okay, do you think that we can make a transportation object? Pause the video and decide what you think would make sense. Okay, no, you cannot create an object of an interface. It's literally just a list of methods. Like, it wouldn't make sense to be able to create one of those objects. It's just about having a reference of that interface type. That's the whole win here. And interfaces can be super helpful for being able to treat a bunch of different types of objects in the same way. So here I've made a transportation array, and I can put a horse and a car in it, even though they're in different parts of my inheritance hierarchy. And I can do that because horse and car both implement the transportation interface. And then I can just loop through all of the elements in my array. And remember, this is the for each loop that goes through every element in the array and creates a reference named r that references it. So it just iterates through each of those. And then we can say r.goForward. So it provides this common way of interacting with these heterogeneous objects. And each of the classes that implements the interface is responsible for writing that goForward method. The most common interface that you'll work with is the comparable interface, and it allows you to compare something to a different type. And this is a little similar to the array list that you've seen, where you can make an array list of strings. So here's the comparable type interface, and again, that's the whole file. It's just a list of methods. Here, only one method. And then I can have a dog class that implements comparable, and what that means is that I have to write a compare to method, and here it compares to another dog. And again, to implement an interface, you have to write all of the methods that the interface defines. And by defines, it just means essentially lists and put a semicolon at the end of. Okay, another example that we saw in CS60 was with the Photoshoppy assignment. So picture extended simple picture, and then inside of simple picture there was Picture Explorer, which took a new picture. And Picture Explorer actually implemented a bunch of different interfaces. And so again, we can only extend a single class, but we can implement multiple interfaces. And that was really important for making some of the GUI work here.